Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell and welcome to part 21 of Miraculous Bonds Beyond Fate, my Miraculous Ladybug AU with a different origin story and different other things too. If this video is your first exposure to Bonds Beyond Fate, then please check out the story from the beginning. Return for part 21 when you are ready. For everyone else, sit back, relax, hit that like button for the algorithm, subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites, and if you want to support me even further, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button, commission me over on Artistry, or donate on Ko-fi. Regardless of what you do, I appreciate you being here. Anyway, put the baseball cap emoji in the comments and enjoy Miraculous Bonds Beyond Fate Part 21. Last time on Bonds Beyond Fate, we took a trip down memory lane to examine how Chloe and Alia's relationship, which started out as a beautiful friendship, turned into something so sour. Chloe was heavily neglected by her family, but found belonging with Alia and hers. But when new girl Marinette showed up to their preschool and took everyone's attention away from her, including her own mother's, Chloe lashed out at Marinette, causing others to look down on her. Feeling as if she did nothing wrong, Chloe punished the only one who she believed wouldn't retaliate, Alia, leading to the poor girl's near-death experience that damaged her eyesight forever. With her friendship essentially broken, Chloe's life got worse with her older sister and mother leaving her behind to go live in New York, and then her getting expelled for assaulting Marinette. After getting therapy, Chloe would eventually meet Adrien and his family, latching on to him as her only true friend, and vice versa. And while the plan over the years was to keep Chloe separated from Mari and Alia, current circumstances have brought them together again, for better or for worse. And now the story continues. The events of the day before were still on everyone's minds. There was an awkward tension in Miss Bustier's class. Chloe was absent, and the only thing the teacher said about it was that she needed to take some time for herself and would be back before they knew it. Some students thought that she was too embarrassed to show herself, but most others figured the obvious of her facing the consequences of her actions. Curious eyes made their way towards Alia and Marinette, the former being so over everything that happened. Feeling the weight of their nosy glances, Alia raised her hand to get the teacher's attention. "Yes, Alia? Permission to clear the air so that we can get on with the rest of our lives?" A bit unsure of what to expect, Bustier agreed. Alia stood up and turned to face her fellow classmates. "All right, everyone. Time to put this to bed. Chloe and I had a fight. You all saw it. Even if you weren't there, you saw it. It happened, and it's over. If any of you want to talk about literally anything else, I'd be more than happy to oblige. Otherwise, let it go. We're getting our math test back today. Put your thoughts, energy, and vibes towards that, okay?" Feeling a bit foolish, sheepish glances were exchanged across the other students. Smiling at the confidence of his girlfriend, Nino raised his own hand. But before Miss Bustier had a chance to call on him, Alia, with a coy grin, took initiative and did it first. "What's up, Nino?"
Was it just me, or was number 7 absurdly hard? I mean, who puts a hard question in the middle of a test? That's almost psychotic behavior.
Realizing the implication of what he said, Nino gave Miss Bustier, who shot him an unamused look, a nervous smile.
No offense, I meant psychotic in the coolest way possible."
Bustier sighed. "I understood what you meant, Nino." Alia couldn't help but giggle.
"But yeah, the rest of the test was a breeze. In that, I zoomed past the rest of the problem since I spent so much time on number 7.
Nino puffed out his chest.
"I'm sure I did fine."
Hooking his arm around Adrien's neck to bring him into a two-person huddle, Nino asked him,
"What about you, dude? Was number 7 killer for you too?"
Taken by surprise of the sudden inclusion, Adrien answered truthfully.
"I think I remember which one you're talking about, but I didn't think it was that bad. I actually learned how to do problems like that back when I was homeschooled."
Giving his friend a playful shove, Nino, pretending to keep his comment a secret, audibly whispered,
"Rich people, am I right?"
Grimacing, Adrien replied,
"You know I can hear you, right? So Marinette, please tell me you feel my pain too,"
Nino jokingly pleaded. A little uneasy from the class-wide attention placed on her during this ridiculous bit, Marinette turned to face the front of the room so as to not see the audience of eyes on her. She gently but nervously scratched her cheek.
To be honest, I was so nervous that I kind of went on autopilot. I don't remember much of the content I saw.
Suddenly, another student slammed her hands on the desk as she loudly gasped,
I thought I was the only one who experienced that. My dad's like, Alex, how did you do on the test? And I'm like, I have no idea. I blink and it's over. But my paper is filled out? Maybe I'm secretly a genius.
Number 7 was bad, but did you guys catch that extra credit question? Asked another student. Did anyone else get 36?
I got 46.
Did we get different questions?
We're literally getting our tests back today. Why are you going over this now?
And before anyone knew it, the whole class was in a tizzy about the math test, almost completely forgetting about yesterday's drama. Deciding things were getting out of hand, Miss Bustier settled the class, assuring them they'd know their results momentarily. As Alia slipped back into her seat, she and Nino covertly gave each other fist bumps and knowing grins. And just like that, the day was finally able to fully begin and progress rather peacefully. Lessons were taught, things were learned, groans were given, mostly in Alia's case with her having to serve detention, laughs were had, and eventually, Miss Bustier handed out the graded math tests, each met with varying responses. Marinette and her friends all looked at their papers and were elated and relieved with their individual scores. They, like the rest of their peers, spoke amongst one another and compared answers before Miss Bustier had a chance to go over the exam with the class as a whole. But at that time, amongst the sharing and comparing, sat one student who looked down at his test in disbelief. The page of white was covered in marks of red, front to back. How could this happen? His rowmates, smiling and joking, peered over at his results, but before they could get a good look, he covered the paper with his arm before sliding it under the desk. Forcing a smile, he gave them a thumbs up and pretended to take interest in their grades. Deep inside, however, worry and resentment festered. You know, you guys don't have to make this a habit. I won't take it personally if you leave. After school, Marinette, Nino, Alia, and Adrien stood just outside the classroom as Miss Bustier spoke privately with another student. The atmosphere across her classmates may have gotten back to normal, but the inciting incident still happened, and Alia still had to serve time for her punishment. Her friends insisted that they could stay and wait for her, but Alia didn't want to chain them down like that.
Maybe she'll let us help you? Marinette suggested.
I'd love that, and I'd totally take you up on that offer. But, Alia rolled her eyes, it wouldn't be the honest thing to do, and I am trying to be a good example, even with the mask off. She gestured, removing an invisible mask from her eyes. Besides, that would completely undermine the point of the punishment, Alia said. Sighing in a dramatic woe is me type of way, she added, just make sure you don't forget about little old me as you ride off into the sunset. Adrien smiled at her. I honestly have nothing better to do, so I don't mind waiting a bit. I'm not exactly itching to get back to the hotel, especially with Chloe still being gone. Guys! Nino rested his hands on the top of both Marinette and Adrien's heads. Let's compromise a bit. We stick around, pass the time doing something, and then after a while, if Alia isn't done, I'll stay behind while you two go do the miraculous thing. You know, make sure everything is in tip-top shape if you're catching my drift. He's right. As much as I adore the fact that you guys want to wait for me, we still have a job to do, and certain parties don't care that one of us has detention. Life keeps going, you know, Alia added. And if anything happens, Miss Bustier has got our back. Giving Alia the side-eye, Marinette said,
Yeah, about that. We didn't give that bit of info nearly as much attention as it deserves.
Oh, what's that? I think I hear Miss Bustier calling me, Alia announced, smoothly pivoting 180 degrees as she completely avoided responsibility. But by sheer coincidence, something could be heard coming from the classroom. It wasn't the teacher. It was Kim, a fellow student who was tall and athletically built. He was completely frazzled as he raised his voice, holding up his failed exam for Miss Bustier to inspect. I can't get an F. Coach will kick me off the team if this bumps my grade down any further. Please, Miss Bustier, please, change it this one time. You know I can't do that, Kim. It wouldn't be honest. Your grades are a reflection of the material you have understanding over, or the lack of. I know it's upsetting, and I understand your concerns, But like I said, you can always just forget it. Kim then came storming out of the room, stomping past Marinette and her friends without giving them a second thought. The group of friends stood in awkward silence as they watched him walk off in a huff.
Aw, poor Kim. He didn't do well on his test, Marinette sympathetically said.
Yeah, poor guy. Do you guys know what team he's on? Adrien asked. He's on the swim team, and from what I've gathered, he's got legitimate skills, Alia told them. It'd be a real shame if he couldn't keep at it all because of one lousy exam. You all keep insulting my test. Was it really that bad? The teens all jumped in shock, their souls practically leaving their bodies as they didn't expect Miss Bustier to suddenly appear behind them without making any sound. Completely oblivious to the reason for the reaction, Miss Bustier blinked at them innocently. Is everything all right? With the group instinctively placing their hands over their fast-beating hearts, Adrien spoke up first. You're, surprisingly light on your feet. The teacher smiled at him.
Yeah, I've been told that. We heard about what happened with Kim, Marinette said.
Expression saddening, Bustier confirmed. I'm not surprised. Things did get a bit heated there.
Is there really nothing he can do to bring his grades up?
I've offered for him to retake exams whenever he gets a less than favorable grade, as I would for any of you, but for some reason he always refuses. I even told him I'd tutor him myself, but he'd say no. I just don't know what's going on with him. Perhaps I'll make a call home.
You know what, Miss Bustier? I can tell this whole thing is really weighing on you. So if you want to go help out Kim, then I say go for it. Chase him down. Call his parents. Do what needs to be done. And honestly, take your time.
Alia enthusiastically encouraged.
Oh no, you're not getting out of your punishment so easily, young lady.
I have an obligation to you as well, and you need to be supervised. Crossing her arms, Alia scowled. Drat.
If you think it's a good idea, Miss Bustier, I'll go find Kim and see if I can encourage him to take you up on your offer,
Marinette suggested.
Aw, Marinette.
Their teacher gave her a soft smile. That would be so super kind of you. I can definitely see why you were chosen to be the, super person that you are. The last bit of her sentence was said with less confidence as she caught herself before a mistake was made. Regardless, Marinette and her friends all caught on to the almost public oopsie, and they all chuckled awkwardly. I can come with you if you'd like, Adrien told Mari as he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Blushing a little from his specific initiation of physical contact, Marinette shook her head politely and stepped away.
He'll probably get overwhelmed if we just bombard him with people like that. We don't want him to think it's an intervention or anything. That might just make him even more defensive. It's best if I just go at it alone. I promise to text, though, if I need the backup. Giving them a wave, Mari went to chase after Kim. Meanwhile, all Adrien could do was gawk at her with a wide, adoring smile. With or without the mask, she continues to be the best person ever, he thought to himself. All right, Alia, it's time we start tidying up, Miss Bustier demanded. Shoulders slumping in defeat, Alia dragged herself into the classroom. And with that, the boys were left to their own devices. They noticed the school steadily starting to empty out as their peers left the facility to head in their separate directions. Feeling a vibration in his pocket, Nino took out his phone to inspect the notification. At the same time, Adrien couldn't help but ponder on something Alia said earlier. Life keeps going. Life has been so crazy lately. Whether it's stuff relating to his dad, being a superhero, or just varying degrees of teenage drama, it always feels like life takes a halt and time slows down whenever that stuff happens. It can feel like it's never ending, like it keeps you in some type of chokehold. But the world around you is apathetic to your own perceptions. Just like Alia said, life does keep going. The world keeps spinning, people change, situations change. If you don't adapt, you'll just get left behind. You'll crumble and fall further and further away from who you used to be. And at that moment, Adrien saw the image of his father in his mind, but his father was facing away from him. The form of his father was beginning to decay while the distance between them steadily increased. Adrien! Being pulled from his thoughts, Adrien turned towards Nino, who was looking at him with concern. You okay, dude? You kind of zoned out there. The two of them had already walked away from their classroom and Adrien didn't even notice.
Yeah, I'm fine. I just got distracted by something. So, what should we do to pass the time while the ladies are busy? Adrien asked, redirecting the tide of the conversation. No worries, my blonde compadre. I know exactly what we should do. But before that, you're gonna tell me exactly what's on your mind. Nino stepped in front of Adrien to stop him from walking forward. He crossed his arms and smirked at his friend. On my mind? Nothing's on my mind. Well, except maybe food. Lunch was forever ago, am I right? With skepticism, Nino only said, Nice try, but you can't fool me. I know something is bothering you. Frowning, Adrien let out a deep exhale as he avoided Nino's eyes. It's fine. I don't want to be a bother. Don't be ridiculous. We're buds. Talking through our problems comes with the package. Now, tell Dr. Nino what's troubling ya. Taking a few moments to form his thoughts, Adrien finally said, I was just thinking about my dad is all. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's a real mess of a situation, huh? It was a mess, even before the everything that's going on right now. When my mom died, it hit us both pretty hard, but it definitely hit my father even more. He heavily limited any social interactions. He stopped hanging out with me, barely spoke to me. There were times where he wouldn't even let me see his face. But at the same time, he became so unbearably protective that I wasn't even allowed to leave the house. We didn't travel anymore, and my only exposure to the outside was through my windows and Chloe's visits. If it weren't for Natalie suggesting I come to the school, I'd still be stuck at home. Wow, dude, I had no idea you went through all that, Nino said. I try not to bring it up. It's not exactly fun to talk about, and only reminds me of how lonely and sad I felt. But unlike my dad, I was able to move on. My mom not being around anymore still hurts, but thanks to Chloe, you guys, and being able to go to school, I can look forward. Most of the time, I'm legitimately in a good mood and just happy to be alive. But I'll admit that I do force a smile sometimes, and I avoid talking about my feelings, especially regarding the insanity that's going on with our secret lives. But that's honestly me just trying not to let all of that stuff weigh me down. Or weigh any of you down. I totally get where you're coming from, Nino told him. Well, I can't exactly relate to having my dad, well, be the way yours is, but my dad was never really in the picture. I never met him. Not once. Adrien blinked in surprise. Really? Yes, sir. But don't feel bad for me. My grandpa basically served as me and my little brother's dad figure. He stepped up when our mom needed him the most, and boy was he a cool guy. He showed me what it meant to be strong, how to be a man, and he showed me all of the music he'd listened to when he was my age. Heck, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't love music as much as I do now. He was legitimately the coolest person I knew. My mom was low-key jealous, but don't tell her I said that. He sounds awesome. I'd love to meet him, Adrien exclaimed, feeding off of Nino's excitement. But after letting his friend's words sink in, he realized something. Oh, wait. Is he... Nino's eyelids drooped a bit as he looked down with a sad smile. He went to share his music with the Angels not too long ago. I can only imagine the kind of party he's having right now. Nino, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you sad. Nino shook his head. Are you kidding? I mean, yeah, I'm sad that he's gone, but I love talking about my grandpa. I'll admit that at first, his passing hit me hard and I wasn't exactly at my best. My little brother Chris didn't know him for as long, so it didn't affect him the same way. The world seemed to stop for me in a way I never thought possible. But, like you, I had some awesome people around to get me back on my feet. Besides, I know that my grandpa would have been ticked off if I stopped living my life because of him being gone. The best way I can respect and honor him is to keep on keeping on. Giving him a sympathetic smile, Adrien appreciated he and Nino's similar experiences. It felt good to know that someone understood him in such a way, and only further solidified how thankful he was of the circumstances that brought their friend group together. Speaking of which, if only my dad knew how to keep on keeping on. His inability to move on is leading him down a dark path, and he barely cares who gets hurt because of it. Adrien frowned as he fidgeted with his ring.
I just don't understand how all of this could happen with Natalie by his side. She was always so mature and understanding. A bit strict sometimes, but nice. If our loved ones helped us move on, why couldn't she help him? She's even helping him with his evil schemes, for crying out loud. He said this last sentence with too loud of a voice that echoed off some of the school walls. Fortunately, most of their peers had already left, and the ones left behind didn't hear enough of what he said in context for them to fully care what he was talking about. Nino shushed him. Maybe don't actually cry it out loud? His mistake made known, Adrien shrunk into himself and blushed a bit as he quieted down. Sorry. Look, man, I don't know why your dad's assistant didn't nip this thing in the bud earlier, but I guess it's pretty obvious that the company you hang out with, or don't hang out with, can affect what you decide to do. Aside from her, you said it yourself that your dad didn't interact with much people. So let all of those bad spice feelings simmer and you've got yourself some toxic stew. Adrien put his palm over his eyes and groaned. What's worse, I'm not even confident that he wouldn't hurt me to get what he wants. Following such an uncomfortable thought, Nino searched his mind for what to say, trying to lend some comfort to his friend. Let's try to be more positive. Since he loves your mom so much, there's no way he'd do anything bad to the son she gave him, right? Right? With a bit of a resentful tone, Adrien added, if he valued me that much, he wouldn't have ignored me so much after she died. And then there's the fact that he hid Master Fu and the other stuff from me all these years. My dad is just existing in a weird spot in my life right now. I love him. I do. It's just complicated. I hear that. And I can tell that complication is really working you up. Nino gestured to Adrien's hands. Completely outside of his awareness, Adrien had been clutching his fists and tensing his whole body. Taking a step back, he released the tension and took a deep breath in and out. So you're a pretty happy guy most of the time, and that's great. I appreciate the positive vibes. But my dude, you need to not keep that stuff bottled in when it shows up. Otherwise, you might blow your top like you did with Chloe's fake friends. Remember? You totally went feral on them. Adrien stopped and thought back. Even though it wasn't that long ago, it still felt like a faint memory, initially. But now that the event in question was highlighted, his mind replayed it in 4K. Face heating up, Adrien lifted his outer shirt and tried to cover his embarrassment. You still remember that, huh? Nino laughed. How could I not? We had you pinned as this innocent guy and then suddenly you lash out like that? Made quite the impression. Why did you even stay friends with me if you saw me do something so awful? I mean, it's not like they didn't deserve it. Besides, Ollie and I, and especially Marinette, had a sense that you weren't actually some type of violent punk or anything. You were defending Chloe like how Alia was defending Marinette. Sometimes we do things when worked up. We're human, so don't beat yourself up. Nino patted Adrien's shoulder in camaraderie as he slowly emerged out of the hiding spot in his shirt. In any case, we're here whenever you need to chat. And to be honest, I think the girls handle this stuff better than I do. Adrien chuckled, giving a shy grin. Nah, don't sell yourself short. I think you helped plenty, Dr. Nino. Grinning to himself and silently patting himself on the back, Nino once again swiftly hooked his arm around Adrien's neck, this time trapping him in a lock under his armpit, and leaned his friend's torso downward as he began to aggressively, but playfully, rub his knuckles onto the blonde boy's head. Unfamiliar with the gesture, Adrien squirmed, attempting to get loose from the uncomfortable sensation. And soon enough, Nino let him go. What the heck was that? Adrien asked. You don't know? It's called a noogie. It's something that bros do. I don't know if I liked it. It felt weird, Adrien said while gingerly fixing his hair and patting his head. Well, it's not exactly supposed to feel nice. It's just a goofy. Without warning, Adrien returned the gesture, catching Nino by surprise and accidentally taking off Nino's red cap in the process, causing it to fall to the ground. Dude! Seizing his opportunity, Adrien swiped up the hat before Nino had a chance to pick it up. He put it on his own head. I'm Dr. Nino now, Adrien mocked. Hey! Nino chuckled and reached out for the hat, but Adrien twisted and maneuvered away from his advances. My decree, dude, is that I will solve the world's problems, dude, with one big party where all the dudes and dudettes eat croissants while listening to some awesome dude music. Jumping up onto benches and concrete planters, Adrien continued to avoid Nino. Nino, still amused, ceased his pursuit to stroke a fake beard on his chin. You joke, but that's actually not a bad idea. And I don't say dude that often. Are you even qualified to be a doctor? I have the hat, don't I? Not for much longer.
Nino broke out into a sprint, and Adrien took that cue to run away from him throughout the hallways of the school, contemplating on whether or not he should leave the hat in some obscure and hilarious place for Nino to find. The two of them were no doubt making a ruckus, and they were completely oblivious if any authority figures were around or even attempting to calm them down. Eventually, the bros found themselves at the front of the school where Nino pounced and captured Adrien in a headlock, taking his hat back in the process. Maybe one day, young Padawan, you'll be able to defeat the master. Nothing beats big brother energy, and I've got loads to spare. Tapping out, Adrien struggled with a chuckle.
All right, I give up. You win.
Feeling Nino's grip on him loosened, Adrien adjusted himself and stood up straight. But when he took a glance at Nino, his friend's smile had faded completely as he stared off somewhere in shock. Following his gaze, Adrien discovered a limousine parked beside the school entry. The backseat VIP window was down. His father, Gabriel Agreste, sat watching him expectantly. He smiled at his son. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.